Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. Today we have another full round one mock draft. This one's going to be a little different though, however. For this one, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to kind of pick the selections based on solely what I would do if I was responsible for making all these picks. So it's not necessarily going to be exactly kind of the rumors or whatnot, but it's just going to be exactly what I would do if I was in charge of all 32 teams in the NFL. And, we kind of been doing some team-specific mocks, and those are going to come. We're going to try to finish up as many teams as possible before the NFL draft, kind of leading up into our final mock draft, probably on the morning of draft day. But let's just kind of get into things. Again, this is me responsible, being the GM for all 32 NFL teams, what I would do if I was in charge. Let's kind of get into things right away. And here in Jacksonville, this will always be my pick. It should always, and it's Kvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. To me, he's always been the best player in the draft. I'm not sure why people act like he's going to fall or whatever. And if he does fall, I think it's going to be a pretty big regret for any team that does it. He's just everything about him is the best player in this draft. He has a higher upside than anybody. He's, kind of better than anybody right now. He's just by far the best player in this class for me, and I never understood the argument for anybody else, to be quite honest with you. And then 2, for the Detroit Lions, this one gets a little weird because I don't necessarily have Aiden Hutchinson as my second best player in the draft, but I think that he would be my pick if I was the Lions because he fits exactly what kind of they are building there. And if that's a culture, you have a perfect culture fit and a perfect player that's might not be like, it's like this close. It seems like a guy Dan Campbell would love. And if I'm a GM, my head coach loves him, fits it like a glove there with the culture. And you keep him in the state of Michigan, the hype kind of help builds the hype even around the pick even more. So I think Aiden Hutchinson at 2 is what I would do. I really do like Trayvon Walker a whole lot. I tweeted a few months ago that, when Walker really wasn't even talked about all that much, that he's going to go so much higher than people expected. Honestly, it's got to a point where I'm a little surprised at how high he's going. But he's an awesome player, super high upside. Obviously a little bit risky compared to some of these other players, but I think the upside, in my opinion, his upside is the second highest in this class behind Kvon Thibodeau. And for that reason alone, I'm going to go him 3 to the Houston Texans. He's got a really high floor though too. He's a great run defender, and I know that's not necessarily something that you look for, like to draft a top player early is the run defense. But it's good to know they have just a really above average to elite trait at the worst. So it just kind of creates that high floor. Like I talked about, Trayvon Walker can play all over the defensive line. He's obviously a little bit of a projection, but he's got all the tools to make that projection very easy. He played in a very talented Georgia team. That helped him, and it hurt him a little bit because it hurt him in the sense that you didn't get to see some of the worries that people have, but maybe it also made him look a little better in some of the other areas. But just in general, I think things will kind of all pan out in the NFL, kind of even out. He'll probably he'll have a good floor like I alluded to, and he'll probably have a higher upside than a lot of people see on tape as well. Now 4 for the Jets, I'd be pretty upset that all of the 3 edge rushers here are gone. I'm not taking the next edge rusher. I think if I'm the Jets here, I'm going Ekwonu. I don't know. I think he's better than Evan Neal by a hair, but a lot of it just comes down to that versatility in the not the 49ers, but the Jets. You have a lot of the 49ers coaching staffs in place over there. They kind of like those mean, like nasty physical run blockers, and Ekwonu is a freak in that area specifically. So I think he's another player that kind of fits in exactly what you want. Now your offensive line is borderline like elite. You have so many good young players. You just signed Lincoln Tomlinson. You still have Mekhi Becton, Vera Tucker. You're really looking good on the offensive line there. Give Zach Wilson some, hopefully all the time in the world back there to make some plays, and hopefully we can get him an elite pass catcher at 10, maybe in the second round is what they'd look to. For now, Ekwonu there at 4. Giants, same position as kind of the Jets a little bit. They're kind of hoping, I think, one of the edge rushers would fall. And I think if this is a way the board would work, if I'm the Giants, because they have picks 5 and 7, you could be worried about the Panthers potentially taking an offensive tackle. So you just kind of go ahead and lock up Evan Neal. They need offensive line so bad. Evan Neal is a really safe bet there. And they have Neal and Andrew Thomas as your bookend tackles, maybe for Daniel Jones or maybe your future quarterback, whatever it is. They really need offensive line, and it's a pretty good step right there. Hopefully some other guys can kind of continue to develop like Andrew Thomas showed last year. They signed Mark Lewinsky. Still a little bit ways to go, but adding Evan Neal with your first pick is a good step in that direction. Now at 6, this is tough for me. I think that it just has to be Malik Willis. I don't think the roster is bad enough to have a top pick next year if everybody stays healthy. It could be, but I just think with McCaffrey, DJ Moore, you got a really young, fast defense. They can kind of do a lot of fun things. So I don't necessarily see them being that bad. And Malik Willis has a super high upside. And if he hits that upside, he's going to be considered a steal at 6, as weird as that must seem. But the downside is really low. But I think kind of the state that the Panthers are in, they're ready and they're prepared to take a risk like that at 6. And that's kind of the direction I would go if I was him. Like, again, that's the theme of this draft, what I would do. Now at 7, you got the offensive tackle. Now I'm going to go pretty easily Sauce Gardner here. They need some secondary help. You got to assume, just because that's kind of what everything has pointed to, that James Bradbury will be gone in one way or the other. In Wink Martindale's defense, you need a good press man corner. Sauce Gardner is just that. CB1 in this class for me. Obviously Stingley's not far behind, but he is behind. Giants lock up the corner of the future and potential really, 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 really good one in my opinion in Sauce Gardner. Now the Falcons again at 8, they're in a little bit of an interesting spot. I don't think they should go quarterback. It doesn't make sense to me. The roster is bad. They have a legit shot to be one of the worst teams next year. They could go Charles Cross here at 8. I don't know if that's worth. They could go an edge rusher and Jermaine Johnson. I'm liking that. They could also go a receiver because they have none. Literally none. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to give them Garrett Wilson here at 8. There's a couple other positions that you could have maybe locked up. But you kind of know you're going to get a stud quarterback next year. You can kind of let Garrett Wilson come in this year and be the guy right away, kind of get his feet wet. So when you have that young quarterback next year, you're not just throwing him in with another rookie. You're throwing him at least with a guy that's been there for a little bit. And Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 1 for me in this class. Super, super solid in every aspect of the game. I don't think he does anything at a super elite level, but he's close in a lot of areas. I mean, he definitely doesn't have too many holes in his game either. Now, 9 in Seattle. I think Seattle is hoping and praying Sauce Gardner falls to them. He just checks every box for them in the corner, what they look for in the corner. But he's not there. So I'm going to give him Charles Cross here. They've neglected the offensive line for years. Another team that has a pretty bad roster. Drew Lock's probably not your franchise guy, but you need a pass protector. You need an offensive lineman. They've needed it for years. So I think they kind of just address that need now to protect their future quarterback. Because another team that has a really bad roster and has a really high chance of getting a top pick next year, they just kind of played safe this year, build in the trenches, and start things off with arguably the best pass blocker in the class in Charles Cross. 10 at Jets. I think that, again, they're really... if their wide receiver 1 is still on the board, I think it makes sense. But I like Elijah Moore. I like Corey Davis. Braxton Berrios is solid. They signed CJ Uzama. They signed Tyler Conklin. The offense isn't in a terrible state. I think that if this is kind of where the board falls, it wouldn't surprise me if they did take a wide receiver. But again, this is what I would do. And I think if I'm them, I'm going Derek Stingley Jr. and just banking on that upside to get a lockdown corner. Your secondary played a lot better than people expected last year, which is awesome. It's not something I would expect to do every year. And even if it is, adding another potential lockdown corner to that group is phenomenal. You just can't argue that. And I think they have some decent weapons in place. And I just think that the wide receiver depth for them at the top of the second round is much better than it is compared to the corners. So I think that's kind of could be the route they take. Or maybe, there's all the trade rumors about the wide receivers out there. I think that the Jets could definitely be in the market for one of them. Maybe this 10th pick turns into a A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, whatever it is. But if I think this could definitely be a receiver. But for me, I would take a corner here and look to address receiver later. Now at 11, Washington. This one is a little bit interesting to me. They need some corner help. They need some safety help a little bit, in my opinion. They could their linebackers have always underperformed, but it's still solid. And it's tough for me. I think I'm just going to give him Kyle Hamilton because he can the defense is so good already. The safety needs a little bit of help. You have some decent guys. You lost Landon Collins, but I think he can be a better version of Landon Collins where he can be a safety. He can be a box linebacker, and he can just do a little bit of everything for you, and he just makes that their defense is going to have to be elite if they got all the pieces in the world. So just continuing to add it on to make it that much better, to continue to make your strength even better and more dominant in that way is an awesome idea, in my opinion. You still have Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. You got rookie Diami Brown. I know Carson Wentz a quarterback, but they have a very good shot to be very competitive this year, I think. I think Kyle Hamilton can come in and help make that impact right away. Now, 12 at the Vikings is a weird one. I've always felt weird about this Vikings pick, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't quite know what they'll do. It's really strange. There's a couple people. I think Jermaine Johnson's a total possibility. I think a lot of people haven't even thought about this, but it wouldn't shock me if they decided to go with a receiver. Thielen's getting up there in age. He's not the healthiest guy. And outside of that, they don't have much with Justin Jefferson. Could you imagine pairing Justin Jefferson with a Drake London or a Jameson Williams? That'd be a very fun thought as well. That's a pretty fun one. I think honestly, that's probably what I would do. It's just what receiver do I want to take for them? It's tough. I think I'm gonna go compliment him with Drake London. Again, you need firepower in the NFL nowadays. Adam Thielen is great. I think adding another receiver to be a little cautious with Adam Thielen so he can stay healthy longer, maybe prolong his career even a little bit longer. Now you have Drake London and Justin Jefferson as a dominant young wide receiver duo for a long time. You still can compete in that division, and you give Kirk Cousins more weapons. You give Dalvin Cook a little less attention. I think that going receiver here is something not many people talk about that I think would be a phenomenal idea for Minnesota to do. Now here at 13 for the Texans with their second pick, I went ahead and gave them Trayvon Walker earlier. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tough not to double dip and give them Jermaine Johnson and just have a ferocious edge rush forever. It's really tough to ignore that, in my opinion. But for me, you have Brandon Cooks, you have Nico Collins, you have Brev Jordan. You got a little bit. You got Davis Mills back there. You need a little bit of offensive firepower. So I'm debating Jameson Williams here, but they need corners really bad. I know they signed Steven Nelson, but they need elite playmaker, the ball in his hands, and I think because of that, I'm gonna go Jameson Williams here at 15 or at 13. I think he's a very good compliment to Brandon Cooks, to Nico Collins. You give Davis Mills a really good target. And personally, I didn't think I'd even have this many receivers go this high, but the way the league is trending a little bit, you see all these receivers just demanding out for not getting paid. So having these wide receivers be on your team for cheap their rookie year is something that's going to cause a lot of receivers to go earlier. And that's going to cause, I think, more receivers to go in the first round than people will expect. And I think Jameson Williams here at the Texans, it's an area of need. He's a good complement. You need Davis Mills to get as many weapons as possible. You got this pick from Deshaun Watson, so why not have a little bit of fun with it? That's kind of why they go Jameson Williams there at 13. Now, the Ravens at 14, home run, easy, Jermaine Johnson. Not much to talk about. Jermaine Johnson is a steal at 14, in my opinion. Absolutely phenomenal player. Get a pretty decent position of need there. You got him, Odafe Owe now. That's a really scary. Oh man, that's a really scary edge duo. Good young duo at that. 15 for the Eagles now. This is another interesting one. I think they definitely need corner, edge. You're probably a little annoyed that one of the edges went off the board, but let's go ahead and give him Trip McDuffie. Trip McDuffie is a guy that's really versatile, a lot more versatile than I think people give him credit for. I think he can be a really good safety in the league. I think he can be a good outside corner. I think he can be a really good nickel corner. He can really do it all, and that's kind of why I think the Eagles kind of looked that direction. Just a versatile guy that can play everywhere. I think versatility is a massive upgrade compared to other players that don't have it, and it's something I personally covet a lot in the NFL. So I just kind of position a need, a little bit of versatility. Fits like a glove there in Philadelphia, in my opinion. Now, 16 with the Saints, their new pick. Again, they're really hoping one of those receivers fell to them. And I think kind of with the way the board is, that'd have to pressure me into taking a receiver early, a little earlier than they'd probably want. And I like Chris Olave as a compliment to Michael Thomas. You get Chris Olave in before the Eagles potentially take him and before the Chargers potentially take him as well. Position need, they need wide receiver. Everybody's known that for a long time. Hopefully with a healthy Michael Thomas, you have a deep threat in Chris Olave now, but can kind of hopefully turn into be your franchise wide receiver a little bit. Michael Thomas is getting up there in age, but still, you got to like that pairing now, and you get a good wide receiver for the future. 17 for the Chargers. It's been a little tough for me. I've always been on the Jordan Davis train here for them. Always have been. I think it's still a phenomenal fit, but I just don't know if it's going to happen at this point anymore. And again, this is what I would do if I was him, which makes things a little difficult. I think that they need a tackle so desperately bad. So bad. They signed Sebastian Joseph Day. They signed Austin Johnson. They've done so much on the defense to draft a tackle, and I think they bank on Trevor Penning here. Trevor Penning, in my opinion, is really overhyped in the draft process. His Senior Bowl tape kind of got taken out of context a little bit, just because he got labeled out like a bully and like just mauler, just mean guy. But if you really just go back and watch all the Senior Bowl tape, he's going to get flagged a whole lot in the NFL. The upside is still there through the roof. He still has those personality traits of your bullies, of your maulers of the world. But I just think they need a tackle. The upside is there, and they did so much on the defensive side in the offseason already that I think they kind of try to get their bookend tackles with a really technically sound Slater, and then a really like mauling physical other side of the tackle in Trevor Penning. I think it's a combination that will really fit well there in Los Angeles. I almost said San Diego. Now 18 with the Eagles here. I think this is where I finally pull the trigger on Jordan Davis. I love the idea of Fletcher Cox mentoring Jordan Davis for a year. Fletcher Cox re-signed on a 1-year deal. I think Jordan Davis has to fall this far for me just because you don't know how many downs you're going to get from him. I think he can definitely, not necessarily be a 3-down player, but I think he can play on third downs. I think he can rush a passer a little bit more than people give him credit for. But I do think that is something that he has to develop. He has to kind of get into, not necessarily that shape, but just get used to doing that role. So I think that's where Fletcher Cox would come in and really help him develop in that area. And I think that's just kind of like from a managerial standpoint, having a good young player learn from one of the best dominant players at his position is awesome to me. That's an absolute amazing thought. Now, Saints again at 19. You are really hoping one of these offensive linemen kind of fall to you, and you kind of just go from there. So I am a little bit tempted to go interior offensive line to kind of maybe just address that in general, but they have some good interior guys. I mean, I know Zion Johnson and Kenyan Green are very versatile, but I'm not sure how much they fit in with what they do. It's tough. It is. I'm not taking Bernard Ryman here at 19. No shot in hell that happened. So it's tough here. If I am the Saints, if I am the New Orleans Saints here, I'm at 19. There's no offensive lineman. Chris Olave is off the board. My QB2 in this class that I think is a phenomenal fit with the New Orleans Saints. He can be a game manager. He can really win you games. He's got good upside. He's got good athleticism. He doesn't have to play right away, but in my opinion, I think he can. I think he can necessarily maybe not jump Jameis Winston right away, maybe not win the job right away, but I think he can kind of come in and provide you a different style of offense that Jameis Winston really can't. And I'm going to go Desmond Ritter here at 19. Now, this is probably going to be the only other quarterback in the first round. I'm not a big Kenny Pickett guy at all. Desmond Ritter checks a lot more boxes for me. The upside's there. He's super good now. He's by far the smartest pre-snap quarterback in the class, and I think that's something the Saints covet. They had Drew Brees for a long time, and Jameis Winston is there now. I think, he can learn a lot from Winston. He doesn't have necessarily that big down the field ability yet. He has the arm, but the accuracy is a little iffy, so I think it's kind of, you have a quarterback in Desmond Ritter who does a lot of things well, and the area he struggles is where Jameis Winston thrives. So kind of just learning from that and taking a little bit from his game to kind of turn into a complete package is awesome for me if I'm the Saints. That's a home run pick in my opinion. I know it's not probably the most popular one, but again, this is what I would do, and I'm a big Desmond Ritter guy. I think he fits like a glove in New Orleans, in my opinion. I think it's a home run. Now here at 20 with the Steelers, I'm not going Kenny Pickett, just alluded to, not the biggest Kenny Pickett guy in the world. I think just in general, I'm just going to go Andrew Booth. They need some corners. You look in the division, they have to guard Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown, Amari Cooper. They don't really have the best CB1. They got a decent secondary in general, but just a ball-hawking Booth, in my opinion, is a phenomenal pick for them. They kind of just need somebody who can create turnovers in the secondary. Outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think that's something that's been lacking a little bit for them, and you get a really high ceiling. He's J.C. Jackson light, in my opinion, just because he can get a lot of interceptions. I guess he's more kind of similar to Trayvon Diggs in a way. I don't think he's gonna be that drastic of a lot of interceptions to a lot of yards, but he's gonna have some good interception totals, but I don't think he's gonna get just torched simply as much. I think he plays a little more calmer and doesn't fall for as many things. There is some injury risk there, but I think just with the Steelers, you need people to create turnovers, and I think there's not many people in this class at the position that simply create turnovers as well as Andrew Booth Jr. does. 21 with New England. To me, this is pretty easily Zion Johnson. They need interior lines so bad. I think Zion Johnson fits like a glove there. It's pretty tough between him and Kenyan Green, in my opinion. But just for right now, I like Zion Johnson a little bit more. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went a different direction than Kenyan Green, or even Tyler Linderbaum, really. Packers 22. This is 100% a wide receiver. Well, let's look, actually. It's going to be a receiver, but it's just what I want to take a receiver here at 22. I would want to wait a little bit, maybe take one at 29. Look at the teams in between them. Cardinals probably not taking one. Dallas could. Buffalo could. Tennessee could. Let's just go ahead and give him Treylon Burks. We don't want to miss out on that. And I think Treylon Burks is a very versatile guy. You can kind of get the ball in his hands in any way. Sign Sammy Watkins, whatever. But Treylon Burks is a bigger kind of versatile guy. You can do a lot of creative things with him. I think he'd be very useful in that Packers offense because, again, you can do a lot of things with him, and he fits kind of the mold of a bunch of different styles of wide receiver. So when you don't have a lot of wide receivers, having one that you can use in a variety of ways, it's important. So that's why I think Treylon Burks at 22 there would be exactly the route I would take. Now, 23 with the Cardinals is a tough one. It's kind of between a corner and Kyle Elam or like a guy like George Karlaftis. I'm going to go ahead and take George Karlaftis. I'm not the biggest Karlaftis guy in general because I think his upside is a little limited compared to a guy like Boya Mafe, who we see down there at 33. But I think his floor is much higher. I think he has one of the highest floors in general in the league, or in the draft outside of the top guys. Super high floor. The Cardinals need to hit on a pick here. They need some solid edge help, some run defending, some decent pass rush, and that's just what George Karlaftis does. Super solid pick. There at 23, great value. Just kind of work from there. Now at 24, I think the Cowboys probably want an edge. They're probably a little annoyed George Karlaftis just went at 24. Boya Mafe is really interesting to me here because the upside is through the roof, and just if you hit on a guy like Boya Mafe with Micah Parsons, that's really fun. But I also like Daxton Hill. The Daxton Hill fit a lot there. I'm a big Dax Hill guy, but I'm gonna go Dax Hill because I think safety's been a need for a long time, and he's versatile. He can play a little bit corner, some slot corner, which isn't necessarily their strength either. So he kind of checks two boxes there, and I think that with kind of how they run things, they know Micah Parsons can rush the edge. So I think that might turn them off from an edge early, just knowing they have a dominant one, worst case. So I think they would definitely address edge early, probably with their next pick. Maybe they'll double dip in rounds 3 or 4. Or maybe they'll do the vice versa and do it with safety and take an edge early. For right now, I'm a big Dax Hill guy, very versatile, does a lot of things well, and kind of fills what seems to be a long-time issue with safety for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, 25 with the Bills, pretty easy. They need a corner, Kyer Elam. Again, some little bit of injury history, but a really good press man corner. Buffalo needs a corner, man. That's what I'm looking for. If I'm the GM, you fixed all of the defensive line issues in the offseason. You still could look for a receiver, in my opinion. If I was in, it'd probably be pretty close between Elam and Jahan Dotson. But it's Elam for now. Wouldn't surprise me if they went with the receiver. But I think Buffalo's trying to win right now. So I think corner is more of a need for right now, but it's still a long-term need as well. And there's, like I alluded to earlier, the cornerback depth isn't as deep as the wide receiver depth, so I kind of think they can find a slot or a versatile wide receiver in rounds 2 or 3. Now with Tennessee, you need a wide receiver pretty bad. I don't know what the whole AJ Brown drama and uproar is. Do you go with a receiver here? Do you throw a guy like Christian Watson in here? Christian Watson is very interesting in this Titans offense. The more I think about it, I wasn't necessarily coming in thinking about Christian Watson because if they do lose AJ Brown, he's a really good compliment. I don't know. That's pretty tempting. Also, another thing, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I just feel like nobody's talking about it, and there's a real possibility that the Tennessee Titans pick a quarterback here at 26. I'm not doing it because it would be Desmond Ritter if I was them here, but he's not there. Tannehill's getting up there in age, really expensive. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But this one's tough. Do I want to go with the wide receiver? I think I do want to go with a wide receiver, and I think I'm going to lean Jahan Dotson here because like I said, this is me. If I'm the GM, I'm not trading AJ Brown. I'm just not. He's so good. You have Robert Woods. You have Jahan Dotson, who's super versatile, can play inside out. Has a really big catch radius, really solid route runner. Super good compliment to AJ Brown there. He can learn a little bit from Robert Woods. Match made in heaven there. Just kind of fits like a glove. They need receivers. The rest of the team is super solid. They need some more explosive pass catchers, some yards after the catch guys, because they can't continue to give Derrick Henry the ball as much as they do or just be so one-dimensional. 27. This is another super easy and obvious pick to me. Kenyan Green. They need some offensive line, man. I really like Tyler Linderbaum. He's kind of been my guy there. Just seems like a Bucks pick. They'll figure it out later. I know they have Jensen, but Kenyan Green's still here. That's where it goes. I think Kenyan Green is a day one starter for any team that drafts him. The Bucks get really lucky he's available here at 27. The Packers. We gave him Treylon Burks. Edge is interesting. Boyan Mafe. I'm just going to go Boyan Mafe. They need a rotational pass rusher. He can do that year one. The upside is through the roof there. I know they have some decent edge rushers, some decent pass rushers in general, but Mafe's upside is really high, and I don't think people realize how high as it is. Super good athlete. Obviously, he needs a little bit of fine-tuning. He's a little bit risky, but the upside is there for the Packers, and I think when you do have 2 first-round picks, when you're as good as you are, like the Packers are, you can kind of afford to take a high-risk, high-reward guy, and I think Boyan Mafe does just that. At the very least, he's a decent rotational pass rusher. 29 for the Chiefs. This is tough. You want a corner. In my opinion, they need a corner, they need a receiver, and they need an edge. You have 2 picks here. What kind of roles do you want to fill? There's not many receivers here. How do you incorporate these guys into the picks? You need a corner. I do like Kyler Gordon. Tariq Woolen kind of feels like a guy the Chiefs would like. Edge. I do like Arnold Ebiketie. This is really tough. They don't need too much interior rush. I wish David Ajabo was healthy. He obviously wouldn't be here. That'd push a pass rusher down for them. Let's go ahead. Let's go to receiver. I think the receiver I want to give them is Christian Watson. I think he kind of just fits like a glove there. In my opinion, the kind of person I kind of compare Christian Watson to, I should say, is a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but a little bit better. You can kind of do him a little bit more all around, but he's a very Marquez Valdez-Scantling-like. And I know they clearly like him. They just signed him. So it kind of happens there. I think his upside is real high, man. Christian Watson could be a steal in this draft when we're looking back at it in a few years. They need some receiver help. They need some, I don't necessarily know. Like if there was better options at corner and edge here, I probably wouldn't even take a receiver, but there's not. So I think they kind of bank on the upside of Watson and then turn to a corner or edge. Do one now, one later kind of vibe. They want to compete now. So I'm really looking at corner or edge, and it's kind of just really coming down. Well, even like safety is interesting because they can kind of kill two birds with one stone here a little bit. Let's give them Jaquan Brisker. I think that kind of, like I said, kind of kills two birds with one stone. Gives you a guy that can kind of play corner a little bit, but can play safety, can do a lot of versatile things. They need help on the defense side of the football, clearly. And you get a versatile playmaker. He's kind of like, there's a couple safeties that are Tyrann Mathieu-esque, where they are versatile. They can play some corner, they can play some safety, and Jaquan Brisker is one of them. And now they got a bunch of picks. The Chiefs have so many picks now. You can address so many edge rushers, pure corners in general. That leaves us with the Bengals here at 31. Tough. Big Bengals fan myself. And if I'm in their shoes that they are right now, it's really tough to pass on Tyler Linderbaum. It just is, frankly. I don't know if that's what I want to do still. I mean, Devontae Wyatt is... like, people are probably wondering why I have Devontae Wyatt as low as I do. He's old. He's like... I know that doesn't matter to some teams, but he's already 24 years old. He could go to one of these contending teams that do need it. Like the Bengals would make a lot of sense to me. But I don't see the Bengals doing that. I think the Bengals usually do like to go younger. I think Tyler Linderbaum is tough to pass on. I think if this is a situation for the Bengals, this is an easy trade down. And, you'd go from there. It's tough. I think Kyler Gordon is probably my guy. Kyler Gordon or Logan Hall are two guys I feel extremely good about. Tyler Linderbaum is just so good, bro. It's really tough to pass on Tyler Linderbaum here. Do I want to do it? Let's just go ahead and do it. I think that the high upside is clearly there with him. You can kind of move the offensive line a little bit. Now you have a really good young offensive lineman, which I don't necessarily have. It was really tough for me to pass on a corner and Logan Hall and Devontae Wyatt. But I think the upside of Linderbaum at his position is just so unbelievably high compared to some of the other guys. I think Tyler Linderbaum has the potential to be a top 3 center in the league, top 5 center in the league. Maybe. So it's kind of hard to pass on that. I'm not the most thrilled about it, but that's what it is. I think that's just the direction where I would have to lean. Now here at 32, if I'm the Lions, this could definitely be a quarterback spot. I could see this being Kenny Pickett. But again, I don't think it is. And if I'm the Lions here, I'm totally taking advantage of a falling star because he's hurt. And give me David Ajabo. Give me David Ajabo pairing up with Aiden Hutchinson, bringing the Michigan boys back to Detroit. Like, there's no better storyline. That's adding Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo is awesome. I know David Ajabo's hurt. I know they could have went with other positions, but when healthy, David Ajabo is a top 15 player. Was easily a top 15 player to me, maybe even a little higher. That's just something you can't pass up. You kind of keep both of your new stars happy. Hutchinson and Ajabo, friends. They play together in Michigan. Keep them in state. They have a dominant pass rush. They love to build the trenches there. I think that's just a great storyline. That's a great value pick. Everything about it is awesome. Detroit's not going to necessarily compete this year. Everything about that pick is exciting. Obviously, you don't necessarily like the idea of drafting a guy with a torn Achilles, but if he hits, man, it's absolutely phenomenal. Again, a little bit recap here. You can kind of go through and see some of the picks. This is kind of the direction I would personally take if I was responsible for all 32 teams in the NFL. I know there's some surprises. This is kind of sort of also like a little bit of a big board in a way. This is kind of the direction I would take if I was in charge of every team in the NFL. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of draft videos coming out here in the next few days. So make sure you're on the lookout on the TWSN YouTube channel. We're going to have more team-specific mocks leading up to our final mock, probably the day of the NFL draft, maybe the day before. Like I said, please be on the lookout for that. And I hope to see you guys on the TWSN YouTube channel again soon.